Hey guys, tonight we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna have a talk. I have tried to make this specific recording damn close to 17 fucking times now. And long story short, I don't ever believe that I'm going to be able to do this recording right, so I think that this is going to be my last one for a hot minute. We're going to be going over changes that are being made in 2026, as well as what happened in my life to go and evoke those changes. A lot of it's been piling up since the ass end of 2023, but first we're going to go over the changes, and then we're going to go over what exactly caused it, as well as what's causing my current fatigue and everything else. So, at the time of recording this, it is Friday, November 29th, 2024, 10:15 p.m. I had started working on... I'd wrapped up 2025's content batch, and truth be told, it was probably one of the worst experiences of my life, for reasons that aren't even really related to editing. So I've been doing a Blind Gamer Long Plays for a while now, and I have always grown with it. I've just grown and grown and grown and grown and grown and grown. And it was something that I was relatively proud of. At the time, I had a fair bit of time that I could go and devote to developing a skill, and I was just very, very elated with pretty much every piece of growth that I had achieved. Long story short, I am going to be doing a video pretty much every 2 weeks. I thought that for a while I would be able to go and crank out a video every week, and that is not something that that's not something that I can do. I was enjoying it for a while, but after some time had passed, I'd realized exactly how labor intensive it is. When I was doing 30 to 40 minute videos, it wasn't so bad. I could play a short game, and then crank it out and be okay with it. And I had zero problems with this. When I had started moving into multi-hour content, I was looking at it and I was saying to myself, oh wow, this is very labor intensive. And I just kind of, for a while I believed that if I had started maybe a year and a half earlier, that I would be able to go and do it. So my pattern of growth was relatively steady. I had started off capturing games on emulators that were literally filmed using QuickTime on the Mac. And then from there I decided I wanted to do other consoles and everything else, so I went ahead and invested in the laptop, a capture card, basically everything I would need to go and do external capturing. And for the most part, the experience has been really good. The main issue that I was running into is a lot of the games that I was filming at the time were made out of Unity. The capture card does not like to play well with Unity at all, frequently breaking up recordings depending on the game into multiple different segments, with in between a 2 to 8 second gap in between the clips that are being made. And so I had to contend with that. I was using, I still have the Elgato HD60 S+. And it's a solid card. I can't complain. The software leaves a little bit to be desired, but I learned very quickly that newer cards supported Unity a lot better. And it was just really kind of one of those things, So I would go and I would look at the hardware spec. I was going and using a 2015 MacBook Pro at the time, and then the HD 60s Plus, and it was doing everything that I needed it to do. I was unaware at the time that a software update as well as a firmware update for the card itself had kind of moved the system spec a fair bit because it was using a much stronger codec. So the laptop was still capable of doing 720p very easily, but if I wanted to do 1080p, I would need a better laptop and I would need a better card because I would have to go and use software like OBS and stuff, and OBS just eats the hell out of that laptop alive because the laptop is very old. So I was running into hardware constraints for a while. Like, I'd figured out that I enjoy doing this, but I was running into hardware constraints, which is okay, and I said to myself, oh, okay, you know, it is what it is, and we're going to go from there. So I knew that I was going to need an upgrade, but hardware can get relatively expensive, so I've been kind of running in what I would call a throttled state, where I'm very constrained in what I can do and what I can play, and with almost everything being made out of Unity these days, it really kind of cuts back a lot of my options, I think. So I had bumped into that a fair bit, and I was really struggling with it throughout pretty much all of 2024 while I was filming 2025's content batch. And so I just said, you know, the laptop wasn't expensive, you know, the new render rig, you know, the new desktop is, you know, it's running great. I just need to focus on the laptop and a better card, but it wasn't really in the cards for me at that point in time. You know, because I had other things in my life going on, and, you know, YouTube for me has always been a hobby. You know, I don't do it professionally. I firmly consider myself a hobbyist, which, you know, is fine. And so I had struggled with it a fair bit. I was going and cranking out content throughout all of 2024 for 2025, and it was becoming very labor intensive. Sometimes recordings would fail for no reason. I would go back, re-record, and it would eat up a lot of time. So at the end of the day, I'm just a single human being going and doing this. I don't have a production crew. You know, I don't have like an army of people going and giving me a hand with this. It's quite literally just me that's going out here, you know, in my own element, mind you, and, you know, doing this work myself while I go and chase life and try to chase a better existence. So there are two ridiculously large changes that are coming to the channel. First and foremost, I'm not doing a video every week anymore. I do not have the time for that. Life is way too chaotic. Shit's way too fucked up. It is not something that I am able to go and do. And then I've also decided to cease commentary recordings on top of it. I'm still going to do mailbag, but I'm not going to be doing commentary anymore. And the reason for that is because I really, well, there's two of them, really, if we really had to get down to it. I do not like how my voice sounds. You know, even like post-transition and everything else, this is literally as good as my voice is going to get, even with vocal training and everything else. When your throat's damaged, it's damaged. That's just how it is. And so for me to sit down and do commentary vids and have to listen to myself all the time, I find it to be relatively damaging to me. It kind of reminds me of my various shortcomings that I most likely am never going to be able to resolve in terms of how I'm transitioning and stuff. You know, it's something that I feel that I'm never going to escape, and it's kind of like having a nail jabbed into my brain every time I hear myself speak. The other reason that I'm discontinuing commentary videos outside of mailbag and personal experiences is because I feel like I don't do them well. I had initially given myself a grace period to go and break in and get used to commentary videos, and I was very quickly learning that it was not something that I was ever going to really enjoy. I tried it with the Summer of Arcade, I tried it with AGBL, and, you know, I just kind of sat there and was like, oh, okay, you know, I'm never going to get used to this. And so I eventually had just kind of made the choice. I put it up to a vote a few times, and people kept voting it. They were like, we still want to see these, we still want to see these. But I noticed as time had gone on, my commentary videos did not really get any views, and then I didn't like doing them on top of it because I honestly felt like I had nothing to add to the conversation. When I sit down and I do commentary videos, I have a tendency to review other people's work. And I don't do it to see if I'm doing it good or bad. I do it because I'm trying to see if I have anything relevant to add to the conversation. That is literally how that is, because I had made up my mind very early on that I did not want to be like everybody else that spoke about games. I did not want to talk about the same trappings and everything else. So I would go and I would review other people's works, and I would say, hey, do my thought processes line up with any of this? Am I going to be regurgitating, the same thing that everybody else is regurgitating? Because if I am, that's going to be boring as hell. I'm not going to enjoy it. I know that other people are likely not going to enjoy it as well. It's really not going to be that great for anybody. Do I have anything of value to add to this? I learned very quickly, especially with retro games, no, I did not. The only thing that I had of value to add was to talk about the process and to literally go and talk about my life experiences and everything, that had revolved around it a fair bit. And so I realized very, very quickly that it was not something that I wanted to do, and I had kind of grown tired of it past a certain point. So I had made the call. I had wrapped up 2024's content batch, and I was working on 2025's. And I had said to myself, okay, I'm having all these problems going and recording these games. And so it typically, with ABGL, it would typically be, we have the standard long plays, and then we have the commentary vids. And, I would typically divvy up my content batch like that, throw in the occasional photo comp, food photo comp, and then, of course, mailbag and repair videos, and I would have a good mix of everything to kind of keep everything fresh. And I found very quickly that I was not very satisfied with it, because with 2025's content batch, half of it, damn close to half of it, is literally commentary. And I didn't even really care for it that much, because it was literally stuff that I had either already said once. Like, you can only talk about how hard you struggled filming the game so many times. I feel like describing my vision, it's kind of like a once or twice affair, and that's pretty much it, because you can only talk about blurred stuff so much. You can only talk about struggling with certain colors so much, and, everything else. So I felt like past a certain point, I was like, I've done this so much. There really is no reason, for me to keep going, hey, I did this, this, and this, because I've already explained it once. There really is no reason to do it again. And then I felt like a lot of the information that I'd pass on with the games, would be regurgitated as well a fair bit, because, and I notice it with the retrospective community a lot of the time as well, they all kind of regurgitate the same thing, but they just kind of put their own flavoring on it, their own style and stuff, so you're not even really going and bringing in new information at that point. You're just literally trying to go and sell your own experience and your own variation of it, which I don't really ever agree with. I want information about these games to actually go and to be relevant and to be fresh and stuff, and a lot of these games are so damn old that there's really just no freshness, I think, to be had with any of it. There is nothing new that is going to be flopping out of my mouth that is going to be revolutionary to anybody else, in all honesty. It's just not going to happen. It sucks, but it is what it is. So I just kind of sat down, damn it, man. I sat down past a certain point and I said, yeah, I don't have a production company or any sort of help, so I cannot do a video every week, and then I'm not really willing to go and do commentary videos. So how do I go and deliver content throughout the entire year? And a lot of it was just pace it out by a week, just cut the load in half because you're only a single human being. You're not capable of just juggernauting it. And then another thought that had popped into my head is everybody wanted content so much a lot of the time. You know, they wanted everything weekly, that I noticed as time went on, the quality had started to go down. And don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of like making horrible long plays and stuff. I'm all about it. But I at least want to aspire to be better than what I was delivering with 2025. And so I had noticed that. I was looking at a couple of my recordings, and since I was belting them out, you know, so hard and so often, I noticed that there was a dip in it, and I didn't really care for that. I wanted to focus more on quality, not generally on quantity. So I wanted more time to go and work on videos, and I wanted to just kind of mosey through it and just be like, oh, okay, you know, I really enjoyed this. I feel like it's a really good thing. I honestly think that 2024's content batch is better than 2025's. Gungrave Gore is still one of my favorite long plays that I've done and edited, and even the commentary version I enjoyed immensely. You know, I loved making it into more of a movie, I think. And so I kind of view 2025's content batch as a little bit inferior compared to 2024, because yes, the videos are longer, but I think they lost a fair bit of character and that careful inspection that I would go and give the videos. Like I kind of stopped going and doing my best to mastercraft them and started focusing more on, you know, how many can I deliver, and I didn't really like that too much. So we're not going to be doing commentary videos anymore. I'm going to be doing only about 2 videos a month to pace myself because life is really hectic. And I'm just going to be going from there. I want to focus more on quality, not generally quantity. So, how did we get to this point? In all honesty, it has been haunting me for quite some time. There's been a lot of things wrong under the hood. And in many ways, I think I've been using YouTube as a form of escapism, because I would literally, life would be so damn chaotic that I would not be able to make much progression on much of anything. And it has been getting worse as time has gone on, per se. So a lot of this mess had started back in 2023. I was dating at the time, and the woman that I was dating, she had a child, and so her child was suffering from really just kind of severe mental health issues, and both of us would kind of do our best to try to go and take care of her. You know, I would try to take care of her while I was going and chasing my mental health. In hindsight, that probably, while noble, probably wasn't the best idea that I've ever had, but, you know, she was a child, she was in need, and so I wanted to step in, I wanted to try. We went down the standard mental health pathway, got her hooked up with a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist would go and say, hey, you know, you need these meds and stuff, they'll make you feel better, and so that was kind of the status quo for a couple of months, and we were sitting there, and she would come to us and she would say, hey, these meds don't really make me feel that great, and her brother and I would kind of sit down and say, okay, well, you still need to go and take them because, you know, you have to be on them. And we would go and bring it up to her provider, and her provider would say, well, she needs to keep taking them. They take time to work, and you're not, you know, going to be getting the full effect yet. And it was this constant kind of goalpost moving. I feel that we were kind of all just struggling with a fair bit. And so we had various issues as the process went on and stuff. It wasn't great by any means. And she would go and she would text back and forth with her provider, and apparently at some point her provider had become frustrated with her because, you know, she's a child, well, was a child, And finally, when she had passed away, we were going through her texts, and it turns out her provider told her to, she was complaining that she wasn't really feeling well and that she was depressed, and her provider said just take more meds. So she wound up taking a ton of meds and then going and overdosing on it and subsequently passing away from it. We were both floored. We had chased it very, very heavily, and we had pursued it in court, and we had won it as well. But it doesn't really take away from the fact that your kid's gone, more or less. And I was extremely angry in the ascent of 2023. Like, it was not a good time to know me. A lot of people thought because I keep my personal life personal that nothing was going on with me and stuff, so I just kind of sat down and I said, okay, this is it, this is, what we're going through and everything else, and, we gotta kind of keep pushing and stuff. So I'd become so upset throughout the ascent of 2023 that I was walking around and damaging people simply for the sake of damaging them. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, and 2023 was a really, really bad year. Both of us, after she was gone, were struggling to cope. My girlfriend would sit down and she would just say, Ray, my baby is gone. And that had hit me pretty goddamn hard. It's not something that I'm going to be forgetting anytime soon, because it's something that you can't forget. You just can't. You can close your eyes as hard as you want to, and I promise you, you are never going to forget that shit. It is not something that you are going to wake up from sleeping one day and the birds are going to be chirping and everything's going to be fine. No, it's going to be something that haunts you constantly. You're not going to be able to escape that mess. And yeah, we could say, hey, you won it in court, so you have some form of closure, but in all honesty, I don't think it is ever going to have closure. Thinking I'm like 1 year and 4 months into this, and there just is no closure for me. I'm not forgetting about it. I'm not feeling better about it. I am just incredibly fucking pissed with it, because it was something that should have never happened, and then the, apparently the provider that she had at the time was known for doing this. She would go and overdose her patients and stuff, and then eventually the public had gotten tired of her, and she was subsequently murdered by somebody. And yeah, you could say that in many ways it was justice in its own right, but it really wasn't, because no closure was ever really delivered, because things like that you never really get closure for. She wasn't remorseful for overdosing people, and going and, murdering somebody doesn't really ever give you closure, because you don't really ever get answers to questions like, why did you do this? What is wrong with you? Because they're not alive anymore, right? So you just kind of sit down and you say to yourself, I'm stuck with this. I'm going to have to carry this weight. And so going into 2024 was fucking awful. Me and my girlfriend were just kind of sitting down going, hey, 2024 is going to be better. 2023 was bad, but there's no way that 2024 is going to get worse than, 2023. And, we were both wrong. Woefully so, I think. And so going into 2024, I was trying to be a little bit more of an optimist. 2024 had given me a lot of problems right out the gate, I think. I was becoming more aware of my disability and stuff. I had started to become incredibly crabby with the home that I'm living in, because a lot of it is not geared towards people that are disabled at all. There's no ramp, there's nothing tactile for somebody that can't see. It's just, this half-finished house that nobody has ever bothered to work on, and I had gotten tired of it. We had dabbled around with looking for other places to live, and I was not finding them at all. I would call and I would ask and I would say, hey guys, I have this disability. Is your facility accessible? And a lot of the time I would be, they would give me a reply of, well, we have a ramp. Very good, you have a ramp, but, do you have tactile controls, for the items in the apartments, the homes, all that mess, really? And the answer would often be a very staunch no. So I would go and I would struggle with this. So my family life, I think at the time, was falling apart. I had been dealing with, I'd been dealing with two older folks, well, my parents mainly, that have been dealing with cognitive decline for a really long time now, and it had been a pretty steady progression and stuff, and I was really just kind of, well, still am, struggling with it a fair bit, because when people get older, sometimes they get very, very mean as they get older and stuff, and that is not really that great. I don't really like mean people in general, and so this would normally, at the time, my parents had tried to adopt a puppy, and the dog was a male that was living with two females, and the two females were fighting all the time. And so my parents would try to, I guess, for lack of a better term, gaslight me and tell me everything was fine, but it was very easy, even with no vision, to literally see that things were not okay. They were chewing on each other. Finally, I said, hey, this ain't normal. We can't really do this. My dad was having a senior moment at the time, and he had come at me pretty fucking hard, and I was restraining with every fiber of my being because I did not want to hurt this man at all. But when you have mental health issues yourself, it becomes way more difficult, especially when somebody's attacking you. And I understand that my dad has like his own baggage and stuff, and I understand that he's old, but he has a lot of narcissistic tendencies, I guess. And it wasn't really getting any better. So we had dogs attacking each other all the time because they wanted to establish dominance, and then we had two elderly human beings that would just believe that everything was okay, and it really wasn't. So this was an issue for a while. I had finally snapped, started Rolodexing, and I was Rolodexing so hard that the cops had to come and get me, and I was subsequently taken to a ward for about a month because my mental health was literally going to hell with all of these various issues that, quite frankly, I'm not really equipped to go and deal with, because I'm not any sort of nurse that is licensed to go and take care of these issues. I'm literally just a single human being with a little bit of medical knowledge, and I'm not really equipped with me being disabled for, end-of-life care like that. And so I had spent time, in the ward, and they had said, hey, you're going to need to move, and I said, yeah. They helped me sign up for public housing because I am SMI listed and stuff, and, I flat out asked, I was like, hey guys, what can we do from here, yada yada yada, what's the process looking like? I had to return to an old clinic which was known for just being awful in general, which I'm still affiliated with, and I had to sign up for public housing, more or less, because that is where all the disability accessible housing is at. The regular apartments don't have it. The SMI housing does, though. So it's way more accessible, so I'm having to go through that particular pipe just to get to it and stuff. So it wasn't really, for me at least, it wasn't really getting any better. I was working all the time to try to make it better, but it wasn't really getting any better. My life was falling apart, which it still is to a certain lesser extent. And I was just kind of going around in a loop all the time, and it just wasn't really that great. And then we had additional issues where watching your family members kind of slowly erode away is a very difficult thing to do, because they have a tendency to not always be in their right mind and stuff, and you're trying to take care of them. And so, with most of my siblings being deceased, it's down to me and one of my father's oldest sons to go and take care of these folks. And so it became very difficult past a certain point. So 2024 was kind of starting off really, really badly. My oldest brother, out of my mom's line of kids and stuff, had decided that he wanted to come home. My brother Donnie was known for being the family drug addict. Like he had never given up meth or heroin or cocaine a day in his life, and he always had a soft spot for weed. And so as an end result, he had contracted Hep C earlier in his life, and since he couldn't stay off the drugs for more than 5 seconds, he was developing issues with his liver, his kidneys, his heart. His heart was a big one. It's actually what wound up ultimately taking him out of commission, I think. And so he had come home to pass away, more or less. And so with my older brother and stuff, it was literally a clear-cut case of I just did not want him here. It was nothing personal. It's just he was known for being sexually abusive, with me being one of the first people that he had done it to. And I just didn't want him in my home. But my mom had this idea in her head of, oh, well, that's my kid. I don't care. they're a sex offender, and so it was kind of forced past a certain point, because he was at his end of life, more or less, and his this woman that he was dating had passed away. He had nobody else. So he was wandering around my town with a thing of oxygen, and he had nowhere else to go, so it was more or less enforced that he was going to be going and staying in my current residence. And so it was pretty bad. It was very invasive, right off the bat, and he was more or less trying to take over. I had, for my section of the house, I had made everything geared around me not being able to see, just everything, the bathroom, all of it. And so I was expected to just go and give all that up, because he was at the end of his life, and it was making it to where I literally could not do anything. So past a certain point, I was forced to put my foot down and say, this is not okay. We can't be doing this, more or less, because, it's not accessible to me. I built all this to work with me. I didn't get help with it. This is literally something for me, so I can continue to have things that are accessible. We have a whole another bathroom in the house that, he can go and use if need be. But since mine is 5 feet closer, I was expected to just give up my bathroom. Finally, I had just kind of kept putting my foot down. I said, no, this is not okay. And I was, at the time, told that I was being very, very selfish with it. So he eventually had started taking over my bathroom, and I was not really much of a fan of any of it. It sucked, And then I was also expected to take care of him during the evening as well. I was expected to literally go and say that everything was fine when it wasn't. I had, my abuser literally living in my home, and I was expected to give up everything for him because, he was at the end of his life, and, everybody kind of wanted to throw up this charade of, everything being okay when it wasn't. So a lot of my evenings while trying to film throughout 2024 were literally filled with me having to stop because he'd be screaming in my living room, and then he would be screaming in the bathroom as well. And so I would literally have to go help him to the bathroom, watch him vomit for like 20-25 minutes, and then go and help him back to the couch. And this was my life for weeks. I was just kind of going and bearing through it and, trying to do the best that I could with what I had. And it just was not really going anywhere. I had to put essentially my whole life on hold while I'm busy trying to fix my problems because my mom and my dad are way too old to be going and doing this kind of crap. And so I would have to go and take care of him every time they would leave, or if he had to go to the bathroom, while he would sit there and call me a bunch of slurs because he didn't like me being trans or queer. And I was just kind of expected to go and carry this for a while managing my mental health and everything that kind of came with it and stuff. And it was incredibly ridiculous past a certain point. And so I was just kind of going and struggling. And then towards the end, he announced he was going to go hang out with some friends. And it really just, the following morning, the police had shown up at my doorstep, and we asked him why they were there. They found him overdosed on somebody's lawn. And it turns out that it was premeditated. He went ahead and we were going through his phone because we got a bag of his effects. And we were going through his texts, and apparently he was like, well, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die happy. We were trying to go and get him end-of-life care in a home. That way they could get on proper painkillers and he could kind of go peacefully. But he wanted to go and go out overdosing on heroin instead. So he had overdosed, and from what I understand, they had drugged him out of the beanbag that he was sitting in and had dumped him on the lawn where everybody had found him. And so, yeah, I didn't really get any closure for that. I was just kind of sitting down looking at it and said, yeah, well, this man used to sexually assault me and stuff. I guess I'm never going to get closure for it. And there was, everybody had expected me to do this giant outpour of concern and sorrow, and I just didn't have anything. I know that it's probably considered rude and stuff, but when somebody sexually assaults you and then, you're forced to adhere to them because, they're dying and everything else, and, when you're forced to kind of go through that, I think, you just kind of say to yourself, yeah, I'm just kind of sick and tired of being sick and tired. More or less, and you just kind of sit there and you're like, yeah, I'm not really willing to, give a shit about this. And so, they eventually had him cremated and stuff, and, it was just kind of the pity party everybody wanted it to be, forgetting that this man had done unspeakable things to me and other women, So I was just kind of sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I tried to move on from it very, very quickly. There was a point in time where I did love my brother and stuff. We were both survivors of abuse, and I think that his abuse kind of contributed a lot to his behavior and stuff, but it does not make it okay for what he did to other people. It's not a get-out-of-jail-free card, as they would say. So I would keep pushing through the first quarter of 2024. My dad had contracted COVID, and, my dad and my mom had contracted COVID and stuff. And we would literally just kind of sit there and try to get through it and stuff. I got lucky I didn't catch it. I wouldn't be catching it until way later in 2024. But they went ahead, they caught it. My mom was doing okay with it, my dad was not. It was putting a lot of pressure in his chest and stuff. He had a mini heart attack. We went ahead and we took him to SVHRC. And they said, there's a lot of pressure in your chest, we're going to have to keep you. COVID's taking you out of the game, more or less. And I just kind of said to myself, alright, this is really kind of where that's at. And I just kind of went from there, more or less, and he eventually had gotten better, but while they were examining his heart, they had noticed that there was a lot of stress on the right-hand side. And so he went ahead, he saw a heart specialist, and they were like, yeah, you're going to have stents put in because you're not really getting any proper blood flow. And that's just how that is. If you don't have these, you will die. Because it is just clogging up, and it's like 87% clogged. We're surprised that you haven't had a heart attack. For now, we want you to go home and rest, because if you try to do anything strenuous, it's going to kill you, more or less. And so we had gotten the surgery set up, and the insurance company denied it immediately. They tried to say that it was not necessary care and doing what insurance companies do best, murder people. They were providing nothing but straight blockages. And so, you know, we spent the first quarter more or less hammering that out. So towards the end of the first quarter, I was burying a lot of people in short order because they were either overdosing, committing suicide, just if you can think of it, they were more or less doing it. So over the course of a couple of months, I had buried 5 of my friends, you know, because they were overdosing on drugs. And I never got answers for that either. I didn't know if it was self-imposed suicide or if it was just kind of accidental. They were all people that I would go and I used to play music with and stuff, and so I never really knew. I know that our paths kind of diverged a bit because I was trying to live the clean and sober life. You know, I'd given up weed and stuff, and then alcohol was kind of a monster in my bed. And so I hadn't heard anything out of them for years and stuff, but they were still human beings, and I still, you know, cared about them greatly. You know, they weren't bad people, they were just lost, I think. And so I had felt that pretty damn heavily, you know, and I was trying to go and make videos while going and experiencing all this because I just kind of kept saying to myself, I need to buckle down, I need to buckle down, I need to buckle down. This is okay, I've got this, just buckle down, you know, you've got this. And so everything had just kind of started to fall apart. We were fighting with the insurance company 24/7, and it wasn't really getting any better. And then the middle of the year had cropped up. So it was mid-July. We finally got the insurance company to go and, you know, okay it. You know, the surgery was set up, and then my dad was getting, like, really violently ill. So we were like, Jesus, dude, what the hell's going on with you? And so he was barely able to stand and stuff. And it just wasn't really looking good. He was, like, puking and dehydrated, and I said, man, this is a nasty flu, and he went to get up one day, couldn't do it. And I said, Jesus Christ. So my mom was not able to go and lift this man. But, you know, I was, because, you know, I work out all the time and stuff. I lift weights, I do cardio, you know, I try to take care of myself, even though I'm technically speaking in pretty bad shape. And so he had barely had his faculties in order. Went to stand up, collapsed. I said, nope. And so I grabbed him by his arms, I lifted him up. And I was so annoyed at the time because I was trying to help him down to the back ramp to get him to a hospital because ambulances take way too long out here. When my mom was just kind of going and standing on the end of the ramp smoking a cigarette because she's an addict like that. She always has one in between her fingers. She's not really capable, I don't think, of going and letting it go. And so I had asked her to literally go and put the fucking cigarette out and give your husband a hand because that's what you do when you're married, right? And she was like, well, don't tell me what to do. And it was really fucking bizarre because I don't know about you, but if I saw somebody struggling like that, I would not be sitting at the end of a ramp like a fucking idiot with a cigarette between my fingers. And so I was pretty pissed with it. You know, like, it was really obnoxious to me because, you know, her entire life she's like, I love this person, but when you care about people, you don't do dumb shit like that, you know, at least I don't think you do. So I went ahead and I had to help him all the way down. And I was just kind of sitting here going, alright, we're doing this. And so, like, I literally had my hands wrapped around his arms. I was like, come on, bud, we're going to go ahead and do this. It's going to be alright, you know. And we had eventually gotten him, you know, in the truck. And while they were sitting there, you know, going and getting ready to drive and stuff, I'm on the phone with the hospital trying to say, hey, yeah, we got a male inbound, you know, 71 years old. You know, and going down the entire symptom list and everything else. And when they had shown up at SVHRC, Nobody had lifted a finger, nobody seemed concerned. This man is literally having to be carried in for treatment, more or less. And it literally took me going and yelling at them to get up off their asses and actually do something. And so the entire time, they went ahead and they got him into a room. The entire time that, they were sitting here doing this, security's like, well, we don't really like you talking to the staff like that. But when I brought that man in, keep in mind, my dad's like a real big dude. He's got a lot of weight on him. I'm technically bigger than him because I have like 1.5 feet of actual height clearance and a fair bit of extra weight as an end result. But, he's still a really big dude to go and carry. So I went ahead and I flat out told this guy, I was like, listen, dude, they did nothing. You guys did nothing. You sat around and, as per usual, did nothing. Do not preach to me, please. They got him a room. It turns out that it was COVID. Again. And he was there for a couple of weeks while he recovered and stuff, and he actually wound up bouncing back very, very quickly, which I'm very, very grateful for. But yeah, we almost wound up losing him, so the surgery that he was actually scheduled to have was literally going and being postponed because he, had COVID. And, it makes sense, you don't want to be exposed to it, you don't want to expose other people to it. And so it does make sense a fair bit. Give me a second. Oh, there we go, a little bit of water. But yeah. So he was exposed to COVID and stuff, and it just really wasn't something that anybody wanted to deal with at the time, which, I get it. So, yeah, it was kind of going straight downhill. My social existence at that point was pretty much, it was getting worse as well because I was hanging out with people that were very apathetic towards everything. And I was going through such an extensive amount of hell in my personal life that, I realized very quickly that I could not talk to these people at all because they're like, well, I'm not the best with empathy and stuff. And I had really hated that because I was like, I'm just asking you to be there. And it really, I don't get along with my dad, my dad is rather abusive a lot of the times, especially verbally. And then when I was younger, very much so physically, but he's still a human being, and so the entire process I was kind of breaking down because I realized very quickly that I was having to constantly go and keep pushing forward, when I just didn't really have the stamina to, and everybody's like, well, you need to keep being strong, and you need to be strong, and be strong, and what a lot of people didn't realize at the time was, I've been strong my entire life. I need a fucking break. It's not realistic nor reasonable to expect me to go and just constantly do this. And so he recovered and stuff, and we got lucky with it because it almost took him out of commission. And so my social life at the time, like I said, was struggling immensely and stuff. I was around people that weren't very empathetic towards much of anything, very selfish and self-centered, and I was realizing very quickly that the writing was on the wall because they would constantly want help and want help and want help, but if there is ever a point where I was in crisis, or if I was just kind of going through it, nobody would really show up. And so that was a really big problem, I think, and I was kind of looking at the old group I was running with, and it was like, oh, well, can I have this? Can I get a hand with this? Can I? And I would just kind of sit there and say, where the hell is everybody? More or less. I'm sitting here just kind of going through it. I'm there for everybody else, but nobody's really showing up for me, and that's not really that great. So I would find myself asking these questions a lot, and finally the last person I was hanging out with pretty consistently and stuff, everything was just kind of going to hell. It was just one bad choice after another, after another, after another, and I had gotten to the point where I couldn't really stomach it, anymore. It just was not working at all. It just was not happening, and it was becoming truly insane. At the time of filming this, that video for what happened with that shit is already uploaded and stuff because people have been asking very, very heavily about it, and I finally had time to sit down and actually address it while life has been being chaotic. So halfway through the year, after letting that group go, halfway through the year, I just kind of said, okay, you know, we're going to have to go and handle all this stuff. But my health was kind of continuing to decline. Transphobia has been kind of gripping my state the last while, and it's been kind of heavily infecting the medical community, who have been kind of saying, well, my religion doesn't like this, in an attempt to go and hide behind it. It's mainly the older doctors and stuff, so there was like a bunch of lapses in care, kind of one after another, especially with my rheumatologist and everything else. We eventually had figured out that my immune system was attacking my brain, my blood vessels, my lungs, my heart, just all sorts of like soft tissues and connective tissues, and a fair bit of bone as well. And so we figured out that it was actually an autoimmune condition. We just don't know which one, because it's a bunch of smaller conditions, but normally a bunch of smaller conditions are brought about by one larger one. So we were still investigating it at the time, and I was just kind of sitting down going, okay, we're going to be going ahead and we're going to be doing this. And so I have that appointment scheduled for the 26th of December, quite literally the day after Christmas. And so I was advised to rest for a while. Rest was not happening. I had various other surgeries I had to do, most notably on my right arm because it was trashed. A lot of joint work needed to be done, and there was also a fair bit of muscle work that needed to be done because my muscle mass is becoming fibrotic when it's constantly inflamed like this. And it's been developing a fair bit of scar tissue as well, so I understood why they wanted me to go and take the rest and stuff, but I just really, at that time, it wasn't something that I was able to do. So I kept trying to make videos, and I was trying to be chill about it and everything else, and just say, oh hey, you know, we can still do this, the show must go on kind of mentality. But it was a really, really bad idea, I think. Looking back at it now, it was a very, very bad idea. And so I just kind of... oh, my apologies. I just kind of kept trying to push through all of the stress and stuff, and, you know, I was literally trying to push through it while everything was falling apart around me. Because that's what I do. You know, I just kind of push and push and push, and so it was going and trying to find new providers to treat me while, you know, being a bigot became fashionable, more or less, and I just kind of kept going and going and going, and it just wasn't really panning out too well for me. So towards the beginning of the fourth quarter, I was just kind of sitting there saying, okay, we got this. And so my dad, we had finally gotten the surgery we finally had gotten it scheduled. And then the day of, you know, they wound up saying, oh, the machine's broken, because apparently they have a machine for surgeries like that. And so I said, oh, Jesus Christ, you know, again, seriously, like I was seriously starting to lose my patience for everything, because I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. And then I was also having to deal with the American elections as well, which, you know, I already knew how they were going to end, more or less, you know. Like, I knew that people were going to vote with their wallets, because most people are rather weak these days, and, you know, they can't really tolerate spending an extra 10 cents on eggs, because inflation, while it has plagued my country for a while, it has been progressively going down with the new policies that they have brought in. Gas has been getting better. I know last month gas dropped by like 25 cents. You know, and so I knew that Donald Trump was going to be elected because people at least here in America, don't really have any sort of decency to go and do the right thing. And so that election came and went, and my mental health had just kind of gone straight to hell because I was like, fascism has finally, in a full-blown fashion, arrived on our shores. And I was really upset about it, you know? Like, it's not like what it was back in the 90s where, you know, your party lost, ooh, boo-hoo. It's like when you realize that there's a substantial threat there, but most Americans are so fucking retarded that they literally don't have the capacity to go and recognize it. And then once they figured out how bad everything was going to be, all of a sudden they're remorseful. And it's like, no, dude, I'm sorry, there's no real, you know, recovery from that. And I was just very, very disappointed with everything. And so I would keep trying to go and take care of my mental health, and I would keep trying to go and push through it, and it just wasn't really getting any better. I was Rolodexing all the time, and I was collapsing a fair bit, and it just wasn't, there was just not a single fucking silver lining to be had throughout any of it. And so I'm just going and pushing, and my mental health life at this point had started to collapse. Case management had gone straight to hell for me because the lady, I could tell she didn't really like her job. And so we didn't really mesh well. She was extremely rude when I was trying to explain how I needed accessible housing because my vision is bad. I was commonly referred to as just somebody that's very needy, but the thing is the housing has to work. You know, it can't just be randomized housing that, you know, I go spend $4,000 or $5,000 on to go and make it something that is able to be used properly by me. And then I was having other issues with, you know, they wanted me to move around from city to city, but the prerequisites for any sort of city that I'd be moving to would be, they have to have a robust public transit system because I am blind enough to where I don't drive at all. You know, I'm not capable of doing so. They will not issue me a license. And so I just kind of, I think as time went on, I just kind of raged harder. And I didn't really like it. I didn't mean to. It's just eventually you just get tired of it. You just get tired of having shitty friends. You get tired of having to deal with shitty situations. You just get sick and tired of being sick and tired past a certain point. You just become very unforgiving in every single aspect. And then you pair that up with not really having a lot of memory, not really being sure if you have a therapist or not, because you can't remember the last time you had an appointment with them. And it just kind of creates a really bad cocktail of everything, you know. And so 2024 for me has been extremely cruel. And I'm getting to the point where I've been greeting cruelty with raw animosity because it feels like the boot has been on my neck for so damn long that that is my only real way of coping with it. So it was literally burying a bunch of people, dealing with the constant stress of having to fuck around with an insurance company, dealing with my insurance company, dealing with the United States elections, dealing with right-wing supporters that are dumber than a fucking box of rocks. You know, it's literally just been this experience. Constantly worrying about housing that actually works for me, you know, just trying to get that process in the door, trying to take care of myself mentally, trying to take care of myself physically, trying to take care of, you know, the kids, you know, trying to take care of my significant other. It just really was not getting any better, and then having to go ahead and leave old friends behind that really just weren't healthy for much of anybody, let alone themselves. That was rough. You know, it just really was not getting any better, and I had kept kind of going and bullshitting and telling myself, yeah, it's going to get better, it's going to get better. You know, you just got to push hard enough. And then I think the realization was me kind of saying to myself, yeah, this is not reasonable for me. And so I had thought about that very, very extensively, and I just kind of sat down and said, God damn, my life is a wreck. And it seems like the more I try to work on it to fix various aspects that are wrong with it, the worse it becomes. You know, so the last while I've just been sitting down going, okay, we're doing all of this. You know, I had reached a certain level of just raw animosity because I sat down one night, I was filling out medical forms, I had the magnifier up and everything, and I'm just filling out these damn forms, and eventually I realized that I was passively raging. You know, like I literally was becoming a fuck every time I turned around because I was fed up with everything. And so I had gotten tired of being stressed out all the time. I had gotten tired of burying people. I had gotten tired of being walked on. Like, I had literally just raged so hard that I was splitting people in half for the sake of splitting them in half. And it's not great. I'm not proud of it, but, you know, I just wanted something better. You know, I wanted to be able to get up, breathe a little, and be okay, and it just wasn't really happening. And so I was trying to manage all this while going and making videos. Was it intelligent? No, it really wasn't. But at the time, I was just kind of like, okay, we're gonna go ahead and do this. And I would try to push forward the best I could, which is all I could really do, I think. You know, like that's literally all I could really do, and I was never really particularly fond of it. You know, so yeah, 2024 was a very brutal year for me. I buried a bunch of ex-friends. I literally had lost a bunch of current friends because of their own bullshit. I had to bury my brother, been watching my parents decline, been trying to take care of my dad, get his surgery in the door, and then, you know, dealing with, you know, my father's son and all of his baggage, you know, while trying to go and just take care of myself and be okay with myself. And, you know, that's just kind of how that's been, I think. And yeah, it sucks. It's very cruel. It is very unforgiving, you know, and so I realized that with 2025 gearing up to go and fall apart, and 2026 looking to be worse, I think. You know, I have to make adjustments for the sake of having some level of viability. You know, it's like, do I want to lose my mind and try to grind this crap out, or do I want to try to pace myself a little bit? Say, hey, let's do 2 videos a month and then go from there. So I think that the answer is pretty clear at that point and stuff. So the question that I think that should be asked at this point is, what is the future of a Blind Gamer Long Plays? Well, to be fair, I don't really know. I know that things in America are really fucked up right now. And with us having this extreme level of instability and everything else, I honestly don't really see much of a path forward. What I have done is all of 2025 is already uploaded. I'm feeling pretty good about it. I went ahead and capped off 2024 as well. I've started as a hobby doing slow recordings for 2026. It's estimated that I'm probably going to have to do about maybe 25, 26 episodes, give or take, if I have the time. But at this point in time, I haven't really gone, and I'm not really guaranteeing much of anything with everything falling apart the way that it is and stuff. I just know that I need to go and practice some form of self-care, because if I don't, it's going to get lit really fast. And so, yeah, I'm taking time for myself. I'm cutting back on the workload, trying to take care of my family a little bit more. Trying to keep myself in a functional state. There's just so much crap that I have going on, you know, trying to take care of my mental health life a lot better, because I have not been doing well with any of that. I've also been doing a fair bit of self-care by repairing various broken things that I've never gotten around to. So I've already shot the video for the board replacement for the Wavebird. I went ahead and did a Walkman project where I took an old Sony phone, turned it into a new age Walkman with like 1 terabyte of storage, and I'm gonna have to replace the battery in that pretty soon because it is old, and polymer cells do not age well. So yeah, I'm gonna be working on that, then sticking it in a snazzy, well, not really snazzy, it's just a faux leather case. Yeah, you know, I have so much stuff that I'm working on. Was working on a PS Vita project that was modded, but the guy that was selling it decided he wanted to be an asshole, so I'm in the middle of fighting it out with him because he seriously wants me to pay for this hack job that he has managed to deliver to my doorstep. But yeah, I just have a lot of things that I'm working on and stuff, and I'm just trying to learn to be okay with myself, because I've had people telling me for the longest time that, you know, it's not okay for me to be like this, that I had started to believe it past a certain point. So, A Blind Gamer Long Plays will be back. If there is an interruption in service, it most likely will be back. I do enjoy doing YouTube. It's just with America being too fucked up to be functional, I don't really see any path forward. With my life being too fucked up to be functional, and with all this hell that is surrounding me, I don't really see a path forward. I know that I want to get housing established, I want to get my medical life squared away. I just want to get to a point where I can sit down and say, okay, this is where we're at. You know, let's go ahead and just, you know, get to where we need to be, because it is the intelligent choice, I think, past this point. You know, so that is what we're working towards. But yeah, I would like to come back and do more A Blind Gamer Long Plays at some point. I do enjoy it. I'm not terribly good at it, but I do enjoy it. But with everything being what it is right now, it is literally me going and trying to hyperextend myself more. I'd like to go get the battery in the Walkman replaced. That's going to be its own project, you know. I know that I would like to, well, I have to actually get my cell phone replaced. That's in the works because the disability settings are no longer active on it because it is no longer supported. That is going to be being remedied pretty soon. Not to mention I wore out the SoC on it, uploading all these fucking videos, so the antenna on it does not work at all correctly. So we have that in the works. Like, I just want to, I think for a while, go and do small little things for me. You know, I want to take care of myself, take care of those around me, and sometimes in order to do that, your hobbies kind of have to take a back bench. So, as stated, for 2026, it's going to be just a video every couple of weeks, you know, like every 2 weeks. And we're literally going to be going from there. You know, I'm going to be cutting back on the workload a little bit and stuff. I still enjoy it, I just am not capable of doing it efficiently with all these problems, as well as me being the only person that is going and working on these. And so the focus going forward is going to be on my mental health, my viability, things like that, getting into housing, just the common sense shit that you would expect at this point. And so with this video being made at the end of 2024 more or less, and then with me having until, well, all the way until 2026, I suspect that it's going to be one of those things where a lot is going to change in that time, so I don't really know what is going to be going on with my country politically, with everything being as unstable as it is. I don't really know what they're going to be doing. I don't really know what's going to be going on with my parents. I don't really know what's going to be going on with the housing. It's literally something that we are going to have to play by ear. So I have uploaded enough content to hopefully allow me to weather that storm, to keep you guys completely fed and flush with all sorts of awful-ass gameplay, you know, so it is taken care of, you know, for like a year and like 6 or 7 weeks, you know, so I have plenty of time to go and focus on myself. And with me producing fewer videos, I should be able to do a much better job moving forward with much less stress. So, with that thought in mind, for all those that came out and stuff, I greatly appreciate your time and your effort. This is what's going on. This is how we're moving forward. This is where we're at. So, as per usual, I hope you guys enjoy the content that I make. And as always, please, by all means, please remember to be good to yourselves and each other. Hopefully, I'll see you all soon.